Rishi Sunak is keeping all options on the table after the cabinet minister wrote a bombshell article without his permission accusing the police of playing favourites by allowing pro-Palestine marchers to go. Suella Braverman was clinging on as Home Secretary last night in the face of growing Tory anger over her explosive attack on Scotland. Rishi Sunak is keeping all options on the table after the cabinet minister wrote a bombshell article without his permission accusing the police of playing favourites by allowing pro-Palestine marchers to go ahead. Senior Tories rallied to straight-talking Mrs. Braverman's defence and insisted she is simply reflecting public fury about demonstrations planned for Armistice Day. But Conservative Party sources said Chief Whip Simon Hart had been inundated with complaints from very angry MPs about the article. It comes after the tense row and comments about gay people. It is cumulative and there are not many MPs going out to support her, the insider added. The Prime Minister could sack Mrs. Braverman depending on what details emerge once Number 10 gets to the bottom of what happened. His relationship with the Home Secretary was described last night as a professional, work-like one. Mrs. Braverman was unavailable on Thursday to deal with requests for information from Number 10 as she was attending a hospital appointment with a relative. Senior Tories on the right of the party rallied around the Home Secretary last night. Conservative MP Miriam Cates said Mrs. Braverman's language reflects the public mood. She added, "The reaction to what she says in what you might call the Westminster bubble doesn't really reflect what the rest of the public think. Shush is very much representing what you might say is the mainstream view in the UK." Ex-Brexit negotiator Lord Frost said Mrs. Braverman was right to say what she did. He added, "Many say they want authentic politicians who tell it like it is, and then complain when they do so. She is in my view correct to call out a lack of even-handedness in the way some demonstrations, and indeed some opinions, are policed. Saying anything else invites people to disbelieve their eyes." But one senior Tory on the right insisted support for Mrs. Braverman among his wing of the party was limited. "I am dismayed by her comments," the MP said. "The sentiments may be right, but there are ways to say it. Look at the number of people who have gone out publicly to back her. It is not a huge number. She is not universally popular on the right of the party." An ally of Mrs. Braverman said she has not breached the ministerial code because the article did not cover any policy issues and what language a Secretary of State uses is up to them. She has done nothing wrong, they added. It would be a pretty spurious reason to sack her. Conservative MP Sir Michael Fabricant said, "Mixed views are being shared in Tory WhatsApp groups about Mrs. Braverman." The backbencher said he was generally a fan of Mrs. Braverman, but he did not agree with comments she made earlier this week about rough sleepers doing so as a lifestyle choice. He added, "There are mixed views in the Conservative Party. I'm a member of a number of their WhatsApp groups and I see what some of my colleagues are saying. Some are robustly defending Suella Braverman as I'm trying to do, not 100% but 90%. There are others who totally condemn what she said." Transport Secretary Mark Harper rejected his cabinet colleague's attack on the Met and insisted, police forces are focused on upholding the law without fear or favour. One Whitehall source said Mrs. Braverman was an attention seeker, who looks like she is trying to undermine the Prime Minister. The row erupted after the Home Secretary wrote in the Times that there is a perception that senior police officers play favourites when it comes to protesters. Right-wing and nationalist protesters who engage in aggression are rightly met with a stern response, yet pro-Palestinian mobs displaying almost identical behavior are largely ignored, even when clearly breaking the law, she said. Mrs. Braverman also prompted anger and confusion among some in Northern Ireland, after she compared the pro-Palestinian demonstrations to unspecified marches in the region. London Minister Paul Scully said, "I would just say to every minister and every political leader, we have got to use our language carefully and we have got to make sure that we concentrate on dampening things down rather than fueling that hatred, and Mr. Sunak will make a decision once Number 10 has uncovered how the article was passed to the Times despite a demand for significant changes to be made to it first." Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove, who has been tipped as a candidate to replace Mrs. Braverman, declined to criticise her comments. "There is a lot weighing and I have seen up close, Suella working incredibly hard, and also incredibly constructively, with the police in order to deal with these challenges.